On a clear morning in Costa Rica, a cargo plane was accelerating down the runway. Its destination was Guatemala, and on board were only 2 crew members. Everything seemed calm, as if it would be an uneventful flight. However, shortly after takeoff, an unexpected warning appeared in the cockpit, completely changing the fate of this flight. What happened next would cause the aircraft to lose control and become one of the most dramatic emergency events in the history of this airport. April 7, 2002. Costa Rica, Juan Santamaria International Airport in Alajuela. That morning, the weather was clear, with only a few scattered clouds in the sky and excellent visibility, a perfect day for flying. In the airport's cargo area, a Boeing 757 freighter operated by DHL Aviation was preparing for departure. The aircraft was 22 years old. It was originally manufactured in 1999 as a passenger plane for Far Eastern air transport, later leased briefly to Changlong Airlines. In 2010, it was retired from passenger service, converted into a freighter, and acquired by DHL Express. On this flight, there were only 2 crew members on board, a 58-year-old captain and a 43-year-old first officer. Both were Guatemalan nationals. At 10 a.m. local time, the control tower cleared the aircraft for takeoff from runway 07. The plane then began its climb, following the standard departure route towards La Aurora International Airport in Guatemala City. Not long after the pilots received clearance to climb to a cruising altitude of 22,000 feet, the first warning appeared in the cockpit: abnormally low hydraulic fluid quantity on the left system. Immediately afterward, a more serious warning emerged. The system indicated that multiple subsystems had lost pressure or failed. At that moment, the autopilot disconnected, and the yaw damper, which is normally used to stabilize the aircraft's lateral movements, also ceased functioning. Faced with the sudden situation, the captain immediately took over manual control of the aircraft, while the first officer communicated with air traffic control and consulted the emergency procedures manual. According to the checklist, although this type of failure did not directly endanger flight safety, it was recommended to land as soon as possible. The crew therefore decided to return to Costa Rica and began preparing for an emergency landing. Air traffic control cleared the aircraft to descend to 18,000 feet and directed it toward a holding fix called Parsa. There, the pilots circled while performing all necessary checks. During these critical minutes, the first officer calculated the aircraft's weight and the runway length required for landing under the current system limitations. Despite the severe operational restrictions caused by the failure of the left hydraulic system, the crew determined that a safe landing was still possible. However, they were fully aware that this landing would have to be conducted without automatic brakes, left side thrust reverser, nose wheel steering, and hydraulic assistance for the rudder. Even so, the pilots had confidence in the runway length and the favorable weather conditions. Thus, they planned to use the instrument landing system to guide the aircraft toward runway 07 for the approach. To compensate for the loss of hydraulic systems, the crew manually extended the landing gear and flaps and decided to land at a higher than normal speed to improve flight control capability. At 10:22 a.m. local time, the control tower officially cleared them to land. The wind was about 10 knots, blowing from the west. 2 minutes later, the Boeing 757 touched down smoothly, landing gently on the designated touchdown zone of the runway. At first, everything went according to plan. The crew used differential braking, the right engine's thrust reverser, manual spoilers, and the rudder to keep the aircraft under control. As the aircraft was taxiing slowly, approaching the exit of the taxiway, the situation suddenly changed. The airplane unexpectedly veered to the right. Since the nose wheel steering system had failed and the aircraft's speed was now too low, the rudder on the vertical tail was no longer effective. The pilots were unable to correct the yaw trajectory. Within seconds, the aircraft overran the runway, crossed the airport's grassy area, and eventually slid down a slope on the southern side. The violent impact caused the fuselage to break apart just ahead of the vertical stabilizer. At the same time, both main landing gears collapsed, and one of the engines partially detached. The fuselage sustained multiple areas of severe damage. Fortunately, no fire broke out, and both the captain and first officer escaped unharmed. In the aftermath of the crash, the shocking images of the broken fuselage spread across the world within minutes. The scale of destruction clearly indicated that something critical had gone wrong. To determine the cause, a full investigation was immediately launched. Investigators began to gradually reconstruct the accident sequence, from the takeoff phase all the way to the moment the plane overran the runway. They examined the cockpit voice recorder, the flight data recorder, and the overall condition of the aircraft's key systems. As the investigation progressed, a crucial clue gradually emerged. Shortly after takeoff, the crew had reported a drop in hydraulic pressure on the left-hand system. Although it initially seemed like only a localized technical anomaly, it was in fact a warning sign of a deeper systemic failure that posed a severe threat to flight control. Technical analysis eventually revealed the root cause of the accident: a structural failure inside a hydraulic hose within the left main landing gear retraction system. This hose was originally reinforced with metal wire. Due to long-term fatigue of the wire, it eventually snapped mid-flight. This caused the hydraulic hose to suddenly rupture, leading to a serious hydraulic fluid leak. As a result, several critical systems instantly failed, including the left engine's thrust reverser, the automatic braking system, nose wheel steering, and certain devices used to stabilize and decelerate the aircraft after landing. Although the crew demonstrated a high level of professionalism and followed emergency procedures precisely, technical limitations prevented them from fully controlling the aircraft's path once its speed dropped. In the end, the aircraft veered off the runway and slid into the runway safety area. The investigation later ruled out human error, severe weather, or airport facility problems. All evidence pointed to a quiet, almost undetectable technical failure. This accident has since become an important reminder to the aviation industry that even the smallest systems must be properly maintained.